The Netherlands bid farewell to the ODI World Cup after 2023 after a resounding 160-run defeat to England, the defending champions in Pune. Ben Stokes created a century and anchored England's second victory in the tournament, pushing them into the 7th spot, which will make David Brooks quite delighted early in the morning from London. But wherever he is, we are happy to have him on the show. Well, the Netherlands currently sitting on the 10th place, and they'll face India in the final match. Well, it's a 160-run remarkable victory. Without further delay, I'd like to get straight on to our friends and experts. Christopher Pofu from Bulawayo, Zimbabwe. Chris, if you can hear us. Chris, are you excited to come to India and play the league for your Masters League?
India is my second home, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm excited about it.
Great. Are you excited about the fact that England has also won their second match and they're not at the bottom of the pool table? They're not lonely.
It's good to see them coming into the party finally. So I was quite chuffed and excited to see that they're getting back to the England that we definitely know.
Well, one interesting part is that they've displaced their earlier part of being at the bottom, and now they're finally acting like a team. They still have a match to go. Let's see where they'll land up. But this is one of the most incredibly horrible outing for the defending champion in any of the time. But anyways, let's talk to David Brooks. David, are you happy finally that England has gone from the bottom of the table to 7? They'll finally play the Champions Trophy if things go their way.
I hope they don't get a nosebleed scaling these heights of 7th in the table. I mean, most pundits predicted they would make the semi-finals. Let's put this into perspective. A win against Holland or Netherlands really doesn't change anything. That's only their second win in the competition aside from Bangladesh. They've been beaten by everyone else, and I expect them to be beaten by Pakistan when they play this weekend. And this World Cup just keeps on giving, doesn't it? With all these different matchups, a lot of interest in every game.
Well, absolutely. David, we can't see you properly. You've got to come into the light, into a little more, yes, where we can see you better. Where are you right now?
Well, I've got my tonight. I'm here at the launch of P. Diddy's new album, Love. He's actually changed his name to P. Love Diddy, I notice, to mark the occasion. And I'm here at the Ned Vault, a very nice private members club. We would love to have you as a member,
Well,
Sunil.
this program is only about cricket and not Puff Daddy or P Daddy, as we call it, but I'm glad you're enjoying yourself. But just take us through the ordeal that England faced and what are you doing? What is England board doing next? Because they have an upcoming very serious and a strong series against India in the new year.
They've got problems, whole heaps of them. We saw Liam Livingstone and Mark Wood left out the team today. That'll probably be their last sign-off to international ODIs. And I expect there to be other casualties too. Please put Joss Butler out of his misery. He's not enjoying the captaincy. And he just looks like the whole thing is an incredible pain. Joe Root, there's no sadder sight on the cricket field at the moment than Joe Root. He can't do anything right. And the way he got out to Netherlands is being talked about all over London because, he played a reverse scoop and the ball went between his legs, Sunil. Is that a shot to play?
That's an interesting point. Well, we are here at the other part of this is where we want to stay at. We've been through the important matches. Chris, I would like you to also understand where we are coming from. We are looking at the leading batters. We are almost at the end of it, but we've got some great memories and some great names on the top 10 batters list after the 40 games. Let's look at number 1, Quinton de Kock. Of course, the man in form. Just take us through.
Yeah, so he's been in great form. He's currently sitting on 550 runs right now. He's at a strike rate of 111.33, but this is where he gets me. He's got 55 fours and 18 sixes. The person closest to him in the amount of sixes he's actually hit only has 6, that being Virat Kohli. Next down again, you have maybe just David Warner with 20.
Let's spend some time on Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli is at number 2. He's got 8 innings. He's got 543 runs. So if you see, Virat Kohli is not far off from where Quinton de Kock is. But one thing is very important here. The strike rate from 111, it comes down to 88. The other important part is that he's got number of 4s, which is just 5 below Quinton de Kock, but at the main time, he doesn't score 6s. He runs his runs hard. He runs his too fast. Chris, how would you bowl to a bowler like Virat Kohli? I mean, there's a stark difference between Quinton de Kock and Virat Kohli. How would you bowl at him?
For Virat, I say he's one of the hardest batters to bowl to, because he doesn't, take those calculated risks. He just concentrates on, waiting for those bad balls. Yes, he does create a few bad balls, but he's technically correct. And when you bowl to Kock, you feel like you've got a chance of because he will actually come to you. So for Virat, I'll just say stick to your line and length, and if you're quite lucky, you might get that edge. But he's absolutely technically correct. So it's a little bit tricky to bowl to. I always prefer bowling to someone who's a little bit attacking. I always feel like I have more chances of taking them out.
Great. On the third, we have Rachid Ravindran, an absolute newbie on the block, new kid on the block. He's from New Zealand. He's played 8 innings and he's at 523. You have Quinton de Kock at 550. You've got Virat Kohli at 543, 7 runs short, and you've got 20 runs short. Then Virat Kohli, it's Rachid Ravindra. He's got a strike rate of 107. When you look at the top 10 table, now this is very important, the greatness of Virat Kohli that we want to highlight here. Everybody has a strike rate of over 100 runs, including the 10th batter. Am I right on this?
Yes, but one thing you must take note about Virat Kohli is his average is the only one within the hundreds. He's on 108.60 for his average. So this will tell you that he may not be scoring runs as fast, being his strike rate, as everybody else, but he's definitely scoring them more consistently than everybody else.
This is where the trick is. To all the batters who are there, it's not the strike rate, it's also the average. It's how you steer the innings. It's not about hitting the number of maximum 6s, as you see here, the difference. It is the number of runs that you run hard. Ultimately, at the end of it, the runs on the scoreboard is more important than the 6s on the stands. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
This is what it proves.
As well as the consistency. You can't be averaging 108 if you haven't consistently scored those 50s every innings. We know Quinton de Kock has missed out in a few games, coming out below the 50 mark. But Virat Kohli, this World Cup, has just been Mr. Consistent for India. Definitely.
Well, we've got a new addition here, Glenn Maxwell at number 6 after his belligerent innings. Again, all you need is a single inning, and that's what he's proved, that he's jumped up the position with 397 runs at number 6. He's got a strike rate, yes. This would be the greatest strike rate in the history of ODIs, if not the World Cup. 152. I'd like to get in David. David, your thoughts on Glenn Maxwell and the innings that he played. Of course, there have been heaps written about it, but what is your thought on it?
Well, Glenn Maxwell, he's one of the most unusual phenomena in cricket.
There seems to be some...
You can't not but love his enthusiasm. And, he's a cricketer that has had his ups and downs. He's been in and out of the side. But here was an occasion where he could take centre stage. Who would begrudge him that fantastic innings? He barely could walk, and yet he was playing the most incredible shots. It is, in the context of his career, it's a hugely defining moment because he's been poorly treated by the Australian selectors in the past. I think he should be the first name on the score sheet across all formats. No one else could have won the game from that position. 91 for 7, the game written off. Cramped, he could hardly move, didn't move his legs at all. It was an astonishing innings, one of the most incredible one-day international innings of all time. Make that all cricket. I remember Gordon Greenidge on one leg in the 1970s, scoring a double century. No one ever tried to get him injured after that because he knew it was trouble. In the same way, there was a certain freedom to Glenn Maxwell's play. because he didn't have to think about moving his feet.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, I thought that, yeah.
So
do you think
with-
the Afghans, though?
David, I've got to stop you here, which means that would we allow him to go and play in the golf carts and fall down, and we should be worried. The opposition should be worried when he falls off from the golf cart.
I
well-
fell off the back of a lorry.
Well, we go on to one of the important names here that Tasmin has pointed out that has an interesting way how the World Cup has shaped. He's named after two of the greatest players of India, Rahul Dravid and Sachin Tendulkar. The mix-up and the mash-up is called Rachin Ravindra. Guess what we have here? Tasmin, take us through.
Definitely. So something I want to highlight about Rachin Ravindra, ahead of this World Cup tournament, he was batting at number 6 and 7 and only averaging around 20 runs and over at a strike rate of, say, about 65. He comes into this World Cup, he's thrown into the deep end, given the opportunity to bat first. He scores 100 on his maiden debut for the World Cup as well for New Zealand. And he finds himself in third position right now, just 27 runs away from the highest leading run scorer being Quinton de Kock at the top. So I think he's someone definitely to look out for in New Zealand's game today as well.
Absolutely. Rachin Ravindra, look at the number of boundaries he scored. It's impressive with King Kohli at 49. But he's got more number of sixes. That means he's got the power, he's got the timing, and he's got the heart to play the big shot. Again, let's move on to the next part. Of course, we've got some of the interesting names. Daryl Mitchell, David Malan, you've got Makram, and we have a Sri Lankan here as well.
Yes, Sama Wickrama.
You want to talk about him? Because, yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, he's been a big anchor for Sri Lanka as well, Sama Wickrama right now. If you just look at his stats, he's currently sitting on 372 runs at a strike rate of 102, not the greatest average being 62, but the highest for Sri Lanka right now.
But this is what it shows, that even a losing team at the 9th or the 10th has one of the top 10 batters and bowlers. Now let's look at the team standing right now. I think it's a foregone conclusion. You leave the first two away because they're already in. Australia seems to have just made it in the nick of the time. But you've got what? You've got at number 4, you've got New Zealand. At number 5, sharing the podium, you have Pakistan, and you've got Afghanistan at 8. This is a rare thing that you have 2 teams on 12, 3 teams at 8, and 4 teams at 4. I mean, this is also the health of the World Cup, where you have teams actually winning 2 matches minimum, and it can be even the Netherlands, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, they've won 2 matches each, which also says that the associate members and the bottom of the pyramid has also started taking on. Now, if we move on to the next slide, we'll get to know the other part of the World Cup. Now, the batting has been very important here. So again, if we were to move it to the next.
So at the top of the bowlers rankings, you've got Dilshan Mandishankar currently sitting on 21 wickets in his 8 innings. He is the leading taker right now, again from Sri Lanka. So we will have something to watch out for today as well. And, you know, he's been spectacular for me. You know, he's 7 wickets away currently from being the highest wicket taker of the World Cup in a single edition. Second behind him, you've got Adam Zampa on 21, just breathing down his neck. So I think it definitely makes for an exciting semi-final. If Sri Lanka can probably find themselves in the semi-final.
PCR, can I go to the next one, please? PCR, hello, PCR. Can we go to the next?
If Sri Lanka do find themselves in the semi-finals alongside Australia, you'll have 2 of the table toppers in terms of bowling actually going head-to-head against each other. Not too far from them, you've got Marco Jansen in at 3rd place. You've got Mohammad Shami sitting at 4th, and he's just crept in there right now. There's a tie for 4th place between Mohammad Shami, Shaheen Shah Afridi, as well as Jasper Brumrah. All of these guys currently sitting around the 16-wicket mark, trying to find their way into the top 5s.
Absolutely.
So I think it's going to be a great display, you know, today. New Zealand, besides them, they've got Mitchell Santner somewhere down the order, sitting at 9. So it's going to be a good contest. It's going to be a good contest today.
Well, we have Christopher to talk about the bowling part in this World Cup. Chris, what do you make of the World Cup bowling thus far that you've seen?
So far, I would say Sunil has been like I said, it's always going to be one of the best World Cups, and we've seen how these bowlers have come in and they've you know, in such wickets, as we said, wickets might not favor them, but seeing these, you know, fast bowlers being at the top for me has been something that I really respect to see, especially as a fast bowler, seeing fast bowlers, being up there. And for Madhu Shankar, he's always been, Mahela has always been a good praise to him, and to see him coming into this World Cup and being the leading wicket taker so far, it's really a good thing to see. And, a lot of people would have been thinking, our favorites, the Bumrahs and, the Kagiso Rabadas were going to be up there. But seeing Madhu Shankar, for me, has been a great prospect for Sri Lanka.
Interesting. Madhu Shankar is a new name that has arrived and giving us a great deal. Next, move on to the next one and see where we stand in terms of the overall health of, as we call it. Yes, please. Can we go on to the next? Well, there seems to be some technical issue with our PCR as usual, but we'll move on to our other important factor here, that this World Cup we've scored more than 500 sixes, which is a shade better than, 464 in the previous World Cup edition. I'd like to go on to, if David Brooks is here, I'd like to go on to him. David. Well, I think David is not here, but Christopher, hitting sixes, 500 sixes in around 40-odd matches. What do you make of it?
It's really incredible, and we still got a lot of matches to go. And 500 for me, that's quite a lot. And like I say, that it looks like the game is actually going to the batters, and the batters, you said it early in the tournament that the grounds are getting smaller and the bats are getting bigger. So it's incredible to see, but that's what people pay their bucks to watch.
Talking about sixes, we also have number one batters in the world and number one at the ICC ranking. Who do we have here? We've got India as the number one test team, India as number one the ODI team, India as number one as the T20 team. Number one ODI bowler is Shubman Gill. Mohammad Siraj is your ODI bowler. Ravichandran Ashwin is your number one T20
test bowler.
Yeah. Ravi Jadeja as number one test all-rounder. What do you make of such interesting things?
I think it's just basically an era for India. They've gotten to that stage where they've managed to master not just their home conditions, but as well as foreign conditions as well around the world. And it's in a testament to that to find themselves at the top of beat the test rankings, T20 rankings, and the ODI rankings. It just means they're producing quality at this point in time.
Well, absolutely. Well, in today's match at the Chinnaswamy Stadium, of course, we had amazing time talking about the match today. But Shubman Gill, isn't he having a great time? Of course.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.